Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to show you a few previous studies here. This is a workup that I did for the class. I never get to finish, so it's a little bit unfinished, but here's a thumbnail sketch that came from this. Doing thumbnail sketches is a great way to learn how to draw as a value study. But then I took this and I blew it up to 9 by 12. This was from, I don't know, it's blown up 6 times, that's all I can tell you. So I did a study from this and just painted this up. Now, this is a student painting, really a nice student painting, a really nice illustration that somebody did. It's so solid, and you may see things like this. This, I think I did for a painting class. It's just a self-portrait. Black, white, and gray is fantastic because you get it formed like right away. You're not messing around with color. We're headed towards color and painting, but it just kind of shows. Here's another one that isn't quite done. So it should kind of look like a jigsaw puzzle as it's coming together. Okay, so what kind of brushes should I be using? A nice flat like this. This will help you fill in. One of those chip brushes is helpful for big areas, and a little brush for little areas. So big stuff first, okay? So I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, where's the big stuff? Big stuff. This egg carton is a really good place to work on. It's just styrofoam, but you could work on anything, a plate, whatever you've got around, a piece of glass, an old mirror, even another piece of paper or a piece of cardboard. You could use it as a palette. So I'm going to go into that. I'm going to go into that black, which is up here, which is kind of a real charcoal-y color, and I'm just going to rough in painting. Okay. So like up here, do I see that anyplace else? Maybe like down in here underneath his chin, that's pretty strong. And then down in this shirt too, seems similar. Okay, so I'm going to go to another gray. I'm going to the background first just because it keeps you being really objective instead of just going into an eye. So I'm going to say this gray goes like right in here. It's just kind of nondescript. It doesn't describe much of anything. And then I'm going to come down in here. Here's Marilyn Monroe right here. And I'm just going to cut around the outside of her face. This is called cutting in. Just making a line that goes around the outside of a face. And you can see that same thing in something like this, the way that this comes down. Okay, so that's just the start of a line. Now I'm going to look at another gray, which is this gray of this hat, which sweeps across here like this. And it may be right and it may be wrong, but once it's dried a little bit, I can change it. The strongest white seems to be up in here. And even that doesn't seem to me to be like completely white when I compare. And all you're doing is comparing. So I'm going to go into his face. Let me clean my brush. You do that every time. Got a rag over here, you clean your brush off, and just let's go into this face. And I think that this kind of gray, like right here, he's in highlight. His cheekbone is in highlight here. These lines that are your grid lines, they're going to start to get covered. And you're just going to puzzle this thing together. His mouth comes down here. Another strong line like right down here. He's got a pretty strong shadow that goes in like right in here. There's an eyelid. So it's going to start coming together. There's kind of a middle gray, like right in here. I'm going to try and mix that up. And I'm doing this with a lot of speed, so, not everything's going to be right. It would be just like I'm doing it if we were in class. Just kind of give you an idea. The only way to solve this is to go inside of it. That's where all the forms are. If you linger on the outside, you're not going to get anywhere. You've got to go inside the forms. And just move paint around. It could be a photo of anything. I don't know what you guys will choose. This, I work this way sometimes just as relief. This is off TV. This is just from a movie that I saw. So I made up a black and white painting, and it's probably scaled 1:1 in terms of what I painted. Maybe I blew it up a little bit. But, it's a good way to work and put you in the paint, let you know what paint can do. Make sure when you're done with all of this that you clean your brushes really, really good. Well, you know, when you get to a problem of a nose, well, you don't really see that much of the nose. It's just a shadow underneath. That's enough. And it tells me stuff, okay, here's his hair. This goes across like this. Look at the size of that ear. It's awesome. And then there's the back of the hat like right here, right? So you can see how this thing is just going to piece together. And then I'll go into Marilyn just a little bit. Her hair comes down like this. You know, there's a little bit of gray there. I clean my brush. If I want to catch that forelock, the way her hair comes down like that, I got it like that. This paint can go from thick to thin, but don't make it too thin because then it just looks washy. Okay? This is a really opaque paint, meaning that it covers. It's acrylic. And because it's acrylic, you really need to wash your brushes totally clean or you will have a couple drumsticks. Okay, so here's an ear. We're just going to go back into this. I'm just pulling this paint out of here. You can make your changes while the paint is wet. You can just kind of push paint around. What direction does it go in the photo? It goes up like this on the eye socket. It's just drawing with paint. That's all the painting is. Okay? So we're just figuring this out. A little stronger eyelid. He's got that little weird mustache that, you know, and then, you know, this strong black comes down here from this. So I'm not going to take this any further. You guys fill this in. Just keep looking at the photograph. It's going to tell you everything that you need to know. But this may also help you too. Just in terms of like seeing the direction of a cheekbone, because you've already done this exploratory thing in terms of like figuring out what's going on in the drawing. And there you go. You're in business. This chin would be longer. Let me show you how you make a correction. Right? Just go over the top of it. That's it. Make sure your brushes get really, really clean. You can do this in a couple sessions. Whatever you want to do. You know, in terms of finding interesting photographs, that's interesting. That's kind of interesting. You know, these are from an art magazine. But maybe even more interesting are these photographs here that normally I'd have you working from some photos that I have. But you may find something like this. You could zero in on a face. A head's always a good thing to study. Newspapers are great. You know, if you can't get anything black and white, I guess you could use a color, but you're going to have to reduce it to black and white. Don't work in color. We're just working with black and white acrylic for now. If for some reason you didn't get black and white acrylic, you can work this up with pencil on a bigger scale. Use your 4B and your 6B because that'll give you a broad range. That's all you need to know. Oh, and you can kind of see that. You know, I started to work this up in pencil. This would have get covered with paint. So if you're making your sketch on the paper, don't put in too much detail because you're just going to paint over it. It can let you know what's going on, but you're going to solve it with paint. And that is it.